Thundergrunt.
Hey guys!
Bob is back.
I came home. Introduce yourselves.
I am Jimmy George. I am a full-time script consultant, and I am a screenwriter of horror movies.
I am Jamie Nash. I am a screenwriter of horror movies and other movies. Other movies. I'll come closer to the mic.
I'm Bob Rose. I'm a filmmaker, and if I were making a list of my favorite John Carpenter movies, Halloween would be near the bottom.
How about that?
I'm just going to say it right before I even say what we're doing.
Let's just get
I'm just going to be
it.
honest. I like Halloween, and we're going to talk about Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
But I wanted to
Not
say
to be confused with Halloween
1978.
1978.
Right. But I wanted I meant
It sounds horrible.
can one of my biggest pet peeves.
Halloween: A New Hope, we'll call it. We have to go back and rename it.
So this is a movie where me and Jamie are gonna just admit that we haven't seen since opening weekend, I think.
That is true.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it. Jamie hasn't seen it. Jimmy, you're like fresh about a week in.
I saw it a week ago.
Okay, so
So,
we do
and
have
I
somebody
made
to
extensive
anchor us.
notes.
You're
Yes.
the anchor, Jimmy.
Yes.
The fresh perspective.
Yes. As fresh as possible.
On Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're not lost in the woods. We were a little bit worried about that, but we're going to talk about this movie. Who wrote it?
Who wrote Halloween 2018?
Well, Danny McBride and
Danny McBride,
David Gordon Green,
and Jeff Freedy. Is that the guy's name?
Is
that
how you
name
pronounce
sounds
it?
familiar.
Freehee?
I don't know. Freedy.
Freedy?
Like 3D, but yeah, I have a
But-
speech problem. I don't know.
Oh.
Jeff Freedy.
This is already a weird episode.
I'm
Yeah.
loving it.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with his work, so I'm going to look it up super quick. But all three of them worked on many things together, among them Vice Principals recently. So
Okay.
An excellent show.
What's the Blumhouse connection? How did that all?
you know, my personal view of Blumhouse is Blumhouse seems like the place that he chases people he's just interested in working with.
Oh,
and then
okay.
he tries to find a marriage between the material.
So it's very possible he's a fan of Vice Principals.
Absolutely.
And was like, you know
Absolutely. He's like, and he has a belief that if you can make a good movie, you can make a good horror movie.
what?
That's, which I disagree with. I don't think that's
Because
always true.
because of this or because of just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah, that was a great answer, Jamie.
I am sure there are people that could make a good movie that could not make a good horror movie.
Yeah.
Who would be one of them? Name somebody.
Ooh.
Martin Scorsese.
Shit.
You don't think he can make a good
I'm
horror
not good
movie?
at
Nope.
this.
I very much agree with Adam McKay. This has nothing to do with horror, but
Okay.
Adam McKay said it's Chris Rock said about Adam McKay and Martin Scorsese. He said it's easier for Adam McKay to make a Martin Scorsese movie than it would be Martin Scorsese to make an Adam McKay movie. Adam McKay made Anchorman. Martin Scorsese's Anchorman would probably suck. But Adam McKay is getting all these awards now for The Big Short and Vice. He's kind of making Martin
How about
Scorsese
that?
movies. So, like, it kind of, this thing that Chris Rock said kind of came true. And I would probably put the same, like, weight on horror as I would comedy in that same scenario.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But by the way, it's Jeff Fradley, Fradley, and his only credits are Vice Principals and Halloween.
Okay.
So there you go.
So.
And he was a production consultant on Your Highness.
All right. Well, good for that guy.
When you think horror, you think Vice Principals and Your Highness.
Absolutely.
So
I'm so used to Jamie being like, yeah, I know these guys. I worked with these guys 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and now they're finally doing things, and I'm proud of them.
Danny McBride is someone who I love. I'm a huge Danny McBride fan.
Same.
Eastbound and Down. I don't think there's a movie you can put Danny McBride in that wouldn't make it more interesting in some ways. Even though there's some movies like that Alien movie that aren't that interesting.
But don't you wish that in Alien Covenant he was just Danny McBride?
Absolutely.
Kenny Powers being
Kenny
in
Powers.
an Alien movie would be amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, what was that movie they just stuck Seth MacFarlane in and didn't give him any jokes, and he was just like a senator or something. I don't know what it was.
I don't know what movie
There's
that
this
is, yeah.
one movie where he just has a straight role and he's just him there.
Just a guy.
I was really surprised he wasn't
It's-
in this
it's very
movie
distracting.
in Halloween. I was shocked
So I was talking
that he
so,
wasn't in it.
I thought he was going to be the Shape.
So before, yeah,
I thought it would be
before we started recording, I was telling these guys how I had watched an interview.
One-liners.
I had watched an interview with David Gordon Green and Dan McBride, and the interviewer asked them about the pitching process, where they were like, "We just did it. We didn't think for a million years that anyone would say yes." So they didn't believe that they would even get in the door. And then the interviewer asked if Danny McBride, why wasn't he in the movie, and he just said, "Well, I was like, as a Halloween fan, would I want to see me in this movie?
Yeah.
No." It's like, I didn't even want to show up. No, they don't need to see my face.
That's
in this
awesome.
thing. So he felt like he would basically detract
Yeah,
from the experience, which I agree with him.
I agree with too.
I agree. He would break the tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he played the Shape, though, that would kind of be awesome to see his belly hanging out. He's standing there with a knife, kind of not caring. But yeah,
Yeah, giving some speeches, some
Yeah.
Kenny Powers speeches.
Kenny Powers speeches, right?
before he
Lori.
kills people.
It's kind of amazing that we have like a Halloween movie written by Kenny Powers.
I know, it's
No,
very
it's awesome.
strange.
Yeah. Anyway, what is Carpenter's involvement? And let's talk about reshoots too.
Yeah, so the word was that they wrote like 80 drafts. That's what David Gordon Green, he's always
80.
quoted as 80 drafts in like 8 months.
80.
I think it's more just a number. You know,
It might have been
probably,
80 like fixes.
It might have been 10 drafts, but he says
Yeah.
80. You know,
Yeah.
I don't
80?
take 82. I doubt if he got 80 steps out of it, because then the movie would have cost millions of
Yeah.
dollars. So
He does
80
seem
drafts.
really reverent to the source. So
Yeah,
I don't,
you can tell
I don't
that when-
disbelieve that they
upon
tried
the
really
making.
hard.
Yeah.
So he said they did the 80 drafts before they went to Carpenter, and then when they showed it to Carpenter and he was on board and he gave him the blessing. I don't think there's a big story behind it other than he's like, yeah, this is great. Or, you know, I don't know.
I could see him. I mean, these
Yeah.
days he's said outwardly,
Yeah, this
"I
is
just
great.
like
I'm gonna
playing
go play
video
Lego
games."
Batman.
Yeah.
I'll do the music.
Yeah.
And then because of him, that's why they got Jamie Lee Curtis. Now I'm remembering some weird fact. Like there was somebody that said, "I love Pineapple Express. You should make it." Maybe that was Jamie Lee Curtis's kids, or was it John Carpenter? I don't remember.
I don't.
Oh,
I have no
really?
clue.
Yeah, some piece like that. I've just seen a lot of interviews.
So you're saying
on
Jamie
those
Lee
things.
Curtis said yes because her kids told her they
Some-
love Pineapple
something like
Express.
that. Something like that. Yeah.
That's great though.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cross genre
Yeah.
fandom. There you go. So there, like, there's reshoots things. I don't know about this.
I don't know
Jamie.
the
So you wrote that
history
down.
either.
Yeah, so just a couple things. One, it's based on Halloween, of course, which we should kind of place that in context.
Yeah.
Halloween was what, Carpenter's third movie, I'm thinking?
I-
I think
There's
there
Dark
was
Star,
Dark Star, Assault on
Precinct
Precinct
13, and then
and
Halloween.
Yeah, okay.
I think.
I think
We're
that's
probably
the
gonna
order
get
too.
eaten
We're gonna
alive if we're
somebody's
not
gonna be
right.
like, "You assholes."
You forgot.
we
Yeah.
we have friends that know this stuff that'll ding us, but we're not here for
We're not
that.
a trivia podcast.
We are not a
Yes.
trivia
I have
podcast.
said that several times.
I do
Yeah.
all of this from memory, for the most part, but this kind of stuff.
I think you're close
Except for
to
the
right.
box office.
You're
I'm
close
in
to right.
Except for the box office.
You're
I
close
don't
to
know
right,
that.
Jamie.
Yeah. So it was started out as the Babysitter Murders, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
It's different.
And
yeah.
then the producer said, "Why don't you call it Halloween?" or something like that. So that was the $1 million idea, was calling it Halloween.
branding.
And
Mhm.
the original Halloween made domestically $47 million off a $325,000 budget.
That's insane.
So that's a crazy profit margin.
To this
for that
day,
time.
people are still using it in their horror filmmaking business plans, which I don't think is smart. But
Yeah,
you know,
it's like
That seems kind of
movie
yeah,
50
people
years
still
ago.
do it.
short-sighted, but
Yeah.
Be like Citizen Kane made, you know.
Yeah.
Not that anybody would ever quote Citizen Kane.
the industry hasn't changed at all since Citizen
yeah.
Kane.
Yeah. If we can only get 7 reels on wheelies, I don't know. This movie, by the way, box office wise, I know I'm skipping over your question, but just to do this, this one is already at worldwide $251 million
Wow.
Was the first one
on a $10 million budget.
including inflation?
No, not the number I
This
quoted.
has got to be the most money any of the films have made.
It is. Oh,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
by far. I think I've seen quoted that it's the most money a slasher has ever made. Though it could be argued that Scream made more if you accounted for inflation. I think.
Okay.
But it's still growing, so who
Yeah.
knows where this will end up. So you asked about the reshoots and stuff like that. So yeah, 80 drafts. There is. I found a script which I might reference here later on, but interestingly enough, there were supposedly reshoots around. The word came out in like May, June that they were doing reshoots. They had a test screening, and they wanted to. The word was beef up the ending. So the script I found that's floating around there, and it's probably not something you can Google. It's kind of in the back channels of screenwriters world. But the script floating around there, it had a very different ending. And we can talk about that when we get into it. But I mean, everything was pretty much the same in the script I read except the ending. So,
Okay.
So otherwise, it was that.
Okay.
That's so almost the entire thing
Are you
was
saying
the same.
they
From
shot,
what I could remember,
You think they,
Yeah.
Are you saying they
you know.
shot that ending and then what we got is
I
the reshoot?
don't have any confirmation
Okay.
on that, but I know they said they reshot the ending, and that script had a very different ending.
Okay.
It just had an underwhelming ending.
Okay.
It wasn't that it had a drastically different ending.
Yeah.
It was just like they didn't do much. You know,
Okay.
this is a spoiler podcast, so in the end, it was kind of like Michael showed up. There was a brief exchange. They shot him with a crossbow. He wandered off in the woods. The end. That's all it was.
Gotcha.
It was like that whole trap and all that stuff. It wasn't in the ending
No
at
Home
all.
Alone stuff.
No Home Alone stuff. No, strangely enough, that stuff was set up in there. There was
Yeah.
like a panic room in the script.
Yeah.
It just
just-
didn't work.
They didn't use it. They didn't use it as a trap. It was basically
so
like
interesting.
Michael got to him. It was really short. So the ending was Michael showed up. Not to spoil all this, but Michael showed up with maybe 6 pages left in the script.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was like 6 or 7 pages. It almost seemed like they knew that wouldn't be the ending. Like kind of when you have a deadline and you just like, well,
and then he
yeah.
flew away to space.
we haven't figured the ending.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. We
The
haven't figured out the
Poochie,
ending
yeah.
yet. Here it is. Something will happen. We'll fix it later. And so I don't even know if that was the ending they shot. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
at all. But the ending I read was like 6 pages that when I read it, I'd be like, yeah, that's not ever
And
going
that
to be an
seems
ending.
more of a
Yeah.
sequel setup than
Oh, it's so
what we
nice.
got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because he didn't burn or anything like that. He just
Yeah.
was sitting there, and I think it closed on, like the script closed on his breathing, like raspy breathing. And
Yeah.
you were like, is he dead? Isn't he? And
Which
then it
is
just went
in
to
the post credits
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Well,
Similar.
before we talk about like the compare and contrasting, let's. I mean, this does skip. This is a retcon of
Mhm.
the whole franchise. This skips all the sequels,
The
right?
sister thing is gone.
The sister thing is gone. It's all
Yeah.
clean. Halloween Resurrection thankfully didn't happen. It's important though because
Yeah.
it all goes into the writing,
That's the only one that really bothers me.
right?
Yeah.
But it's important though because I don't know. This has been happening a lot lately.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And why do you guys think that is? Do you think it's because of the audience or because writers are actually more interested in referencing the original, the thing that they fell in love with, without having to placate all the continuity?
I'll let Jamie go.
Yeah, well, I think there's different reasons for different movies. And I think in this one, and I know this is going to dip into some of the stuff we talk about later on, but I think if you look at that first movie, it isn't like, I'm almost going to say a piece of science fiction. It's more real. It has more realism.
Yeah.
It's more like it could really happen. Once you get to like the 7th movie or
Oh
something,
yeah.
it's basically science fiction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
demons and resurrections
Runes
and
and-
all
yeah.
this
They
stuff.
turned it into Freddy territory.
Freddy,
where it's,
Yeah.
it starts going into Freddy
supernatural.
territory. So if you do a sequel to that, you also have to be in science fiction territory, in
Right.
my opinion. So I totally get in this case why they might want to cut away all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I personally probably would have kept the second one in. I think if they would have kept the second one in, even though he is somewhat supernatural in the second one,
Yeah.
but in the second, I have my reasons for why, and it's
Yeah.
just my opinion. But I think the second one gives her more reason to build her fortress.
I agree.
And because
I agree.
I
Yeah.
think in the second one, in this new movie, it delves into the non-reality space. This is a stylized movie. As soon as you have a Sarah Connor character, it doesn't feel as real to me. You know,
Gotcha.
She needs more of a reason, motivation to do all the things she does. Is what
yeah,
you're saying?
I mean, look at why Sarah Connor does it, and look at why she does it. I mean, there's even a joke about it, like, who cares, a guy with a knife, you know? But
yeah.
to an extent, I'm not sure that someone's reaction to almost getting killed by a guy with a knife would be the same as Sarah Connor's reaction. I mean, it's
Right.
very similar. Would be, and so anyway,
it's like her reaction is building off the sequels that never
That's
happened
right.
in this continuity.
That's
right.
I agree
So-
with you. I
I
thought
agree
about
with
that
you, too.
extensively.
this isn't really a screenwriting thing. This is just me loving Halloween. And
I
liking
think
to
that's
talk
definitely
about
a
it.
writing
I think
thing,
it's
though,
a
because
writing-
Yeah.
because if they don't justify
Yeah.
why this experience, like she had a traumatic experience when she was a kid, which we know. I know people that had experiences near death, almost murdered. I know people
Yeah.
that had these things. They didn't build a fortress
Yeah.
to stop.
But for everyone who doesn't, there are people.
There
who
are
go
people
to
that do.
extremes,
Of course, there's
definitely.
also people that build fortresses to stop
no
the
reason.
government
For
from
no
attacking
reason.
them. And
It's not so much as a showstopper, but in movie world, I almost think it would have worked better with Halloween 2 being the thing than Halloween 3.
Yeah.
There's other reasons I also think Halloween 2 would have worked better with this, because I think if you would have attached the two together, it would have made more sense that she would be preparing for him and he'd be coming
I
at her,
agree
and
totally
the
with
coincidences that lead to that might be more like destiny.
Right.
The way it plays out to me is they tell you, no, he's just a killing force, he'll kill anything. But then there's something, I don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite doesn't all quite.
it
bring
doesn't
together.
gel. I
So I
agree.
don't quite understand why they left out Halloween 2.
And
Yeah.
my question here is, and I don't even know if this is a writing thing, Jamie, but like when you do these retcons, it's weird to me that they're not noted in either the actual script or on the actual screen.
Right.
Like,
That
you know what
they
I'm saying?
you say there's nothing to just.
There's nothing that
acknowledge.
says that it doesn't say like,
Oh, I see.
1978 Halloween is the only thing that has
Yeah.
happened in this universe.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan of retcons, but
I hate them.
but
So
but I think that's because we grew up in a different time of how
I think you
sequels were treated.
live with your mistakes.
I agree.
I believe in that.
I
fully.
think I was not a
So-
fan when everybody was losing their shit over Neil Blomkamp's Alien 3. I was
Live with
not
it.
a fan of that. I just think it's like that these things happened. But I also think it's a product of us now watching movies, experiencing them long form like comic books. And like in the comic book world, if
That's exactly why I don't
Yeah.
mind them, is because I've been growing up with them in comic books. For
right.
So, long.
So like, you
That's
know,
what I get.
let's
No,
say
you're right.
let's say Halloween originated as a Marvel comic, right? There would already be like 7 iterations of Laurie's story. There would be like 20 different versions of Michael Myers' story, and nobody who is a fan of that medium would give a shit.
Right.
It's just a product of that medium.
movies
so-
are now experiencing that.
Right.
That's
So
right.
so we're changing the way that we experience media, specifically in like absolving like deaths and then resurrecting characters with no explanation, you know, all these things. And I think the audiences that are young, they're like, they don't care, like,
Yeah.
you know, but us old people are like, this is stupid.
I just think you should just live with your mistakes. That's
I-
really just how I feel.
I agree,
So,
but
yeah.
and I'm with you, Jamie. I'm on the. I think this makes a great part 3.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
I totally
Yeah.
agree with what Jamie
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
I think something like just to go on the retcon thing, because I don't mind the retcons as much. I would love though if they did things more like that was rumored to do, like with Evil Dead. Like they rebooted Evil Dead, but they still had Ash in a TV show. I don't mind
Mhm.
having these two separate
Parallel.
tracks.
They're doing that with Child's Play, technically.
Child's
There's
Play,
a
yeah.
Child Play reboot, and then there's the official storyline
Right.
continuing in a TV show.
Yeah, it doesn't, as long
Yeah,
as
I'm not. I'm really upset about that because.
But-
yeah,
but I'm just saying-
the new movie is like exactly like something I've been wanting to do for like 20 years
And Don Mancini
and
is
working on.
Mhm.
Don Mancini's completely against it too. Anyway, I'm not against that, Jamie. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that can't exist. It's just, I guess I like things to be not confusing.
yeah.
I like
Keep
the,
it simple.
I would
like
say
the
it's-
idea of a bunch of DVDs or Blu-rays all being one storyline.
Yeah.
The funny
Yeah,
thing,
that
I'm
makes
with you,
sense.
yeah.
the funny thing is, the person saying that is probably somebody that's least likely to be confused. There probably are some people that are really confused.
Super
Yeah,
confused,
I'm
right?
sure.
Yeah.
You probably sat down and completely got and were
Oh,
able to
well,
process
sure,
and hold
yes.
two thoughts in your head and everything. However, there are probably people that sit there and really are confused by
Yeah.
these things.
I'm
What do you
saying-
mean that, like, when she says that's just something they made up? She wasn't his brother. I mean, his sister.
Well, no, you can't
There's
do
probably
that.
people watching the movie going like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Well,
Wait,
in this movie, they literally say
when did that happen?
she
Was that in
literally
7?
outlines that is what happened a long time ago, and then she doesn't mention anything else, and that's sort of the retcon right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what happened. That's it.
yeah,
Nah, and
Yeah.
like nothing
Yeah.
else. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, she does have that sister line.
That's we call that an insecurity line.
So to
from the writer.
yeah, exactly. No, I thought of you when I heard that line because you say that like you're actually acknowledging your mistakes within
Right.
the text.
You know it doesn't work, but you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna apologize through a character."
Yeah.
And so,
But
yeah.
but on that topic of kind of the original and the new one, because we're kind of going down
Yeah, let's
that
compare.
path. That's to me. So this movie, the things I like about it are the fact that they are trying to give you that 1978 feel, right?
Definitely.
The music, the intro title is awesome. I think everybody loves that.
So cool.
The photography, these kind of inky, crisp blacks versus, it's kind of this. Yeah, I actually had a lot of people complain about the photography. They were like, I don't understand it. It looks weird because they took a chance with like how they photographed it and stuff.
I would say even
Um,
the editing comes down to it felt
It felt
older, intentionally.
I
older.
love that.
A lot of hard cuts that were
Mhm.
unexpected, like in a 70s movie.
I
Yeah.
loved that.
And the one thing about Halloween, like I talk to, I teach, at a film school, and there's a guy that really doesn't even like horror movies that much. He says he teaches Halloween for shot selection and motivation and all this stuff.
Wow.
He says it's one of his favorite movies to teach from. When I was talking about this, so it gets a lot of those things, I think, right in some ways. Here's my thing with it. I think the two movies, I think the reason Halloween works, the original, 1978, why it works is because it feels almost more like a snuff film. Okay,
Mm.
it's a
It's
realism.
dirty.
It's a realism
Yeah.
thing. We can't even analyze it. So we've talked about it before, where we've talked about arch plot, mini plot, anti plot.
Mhm.
I think the first Halloween is a mini plot movie. It's firmly in that place. It doesn't necessarily have a protagonist that has a journey and a story. It's just a girl. She's there. There's this other random thing going on. And then in the end, they kind of collide. And it's kind of a day
Wrong
in the
place,
life.
wrong time.
It feels like it could be a true story in some ways. I mean, it has Donald Pleasance going around acting
Yeah.
kind of crazy. But
Well, yeah, it's not even her destiny, or she's not connected to anything.
Not at
She's
all.
just there,
and,
right?
and that's what's actually back in 1978 when I was a kid was scary about it, because
could be anyone.
it could be when I go outside in Halloween, there's a million people with masks. There's some creepy adults with masks or creepy kids.
Yeah.
They could just be a killer that's about to come get me.
Yep.
And that was scary. It was like telling a ghost story at Halloween or something like that.
Michael Myers is coming to get you.
Yeah, it was
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was a realism thing. And I think that's why that's a hard movie to actually analyze. Like if we sat down and tried to analyze that in the podcast, you'd be like, well, Laurie doesn't even know there's a killer to page 70. And it'd be like,
Yeah.
well, what's the movie about? And how do you write a log line for that?
Yeah.
It'd be tricky to write a log line for it. But I think because it's a mini plot movie. This movie, however, is going more into true stylized genre territory just from the beginning.
Yeah.
And just having a Laurie character that's kind of
Her involvement makes it that.
it
Yeah.
makes it
You
that.
can't avoid it.
It
Yeah.
just being a sequel to a certain extent makes it that.
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. Right.
Um,
Yeah, just right.
it happens again.
right.
But and that's I think a trap. That's actually why I think in some ways, I mean, I know this is controversial, but I think Halloween 2 was kind of a brilliant
Yeah.
trick of that. It's just we're just going to continue it. We're
Pick
just
it
going to
right back up.
right back up.
Yeah.
I think that's something you don't see too often nowadays.
Right.
But anyway, so to compare the two, that's the one thing this movie cannot be. It cannot be a mini plot movie. It could be a mini plot movie, but it can't be a realism movie. It can't be a random killing movie
Yeah.
because it is a sequel. It has Laurie. It has all these trappings.
Right.
It has
Baggage over baggage over
Oh.
baggage.
It has winks to old
Yeah.
movies. It has excuses for why it's not like others. It just cannot be that. So as much as it wants to be the original Halloween, that's where it cannot be that. And to me, that's a story thing. So
Yeah. That's a storytelling thing. Yeah.
Anyway,
I
that's-
agree.
that's my passionate plea toward why the
So
Between the
can-
two.
Can I ask Jamie or Jimmy if you had the option to write this movie? I know it's a big question. Hold on, I'm going to narrow it down for a second. And you also got to make the choice whether to include the character of Laurie or not. would you?
Ooh.
Because what you just said makes me think you wouldn't.
Right.
Because she brings all that stuff you just said with her.
It's always that thing that you always hear. David Goyer tried to figure out what the elements of Batman were, so he listed them.
Good job, jerk.
So he listed them, and then they checked off. Him and Nolan got together and said, "What must Batman have?" What do I think?
That angers me that happened.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
Anyway, that's always the story behind that.
That angers me.
So, what are the things that Halloween has to have? That's my question.
Well, it's the premise delivery.
The holiday.
The
Would you understand
holiday.
my question was in reference to what he was talking about.
So for me, I would. What I love about this idea, and I don't think they did well for most of it, but then they do well in the end of it, is I would pick Laurie because I love the idea of the title bout film between the final girl and the slasher villain, which I don't think we've ever had.
40 years later.
Still don't think we have, because that's not what this movie is, in my opinion. We've had Ash versus Evil Dead. Nancy encounters Freddy later in her life, but those films are not about specifically Nancy versus Freddy.
And that was kind of meta.
This is the first movie that sold itself premise-wise as the old slasher, the old final girl versus the slasher who is back together once again, and a fight to the death. And that's not what we got. We got that for 20 minutes of it. And so for that reason alone, I would have chosen her, because it's the high concept, it's the marketable aspect, and I'm not intimidated by those things that Jamie said about like it's got all this baggage, because I don't believe in like trying to tell the exact same story again. I think it like I enjoyed the aesthetic side that you just described. The aesthetic throwback I think was really well done, and I love that aspect of it. But yeah, there's just so much that it thinks it does that I don't think it did.
Yeah, and what you said, I agree. I think I would choose this, but saying that it's not going to have the random slasher scare. It's not going to be as scary.
Not at all. It couldn't
I'm
be.
Put scary in quotes because it's subjective, obviously.
Right.
But it's just going to have a different thing. Anytime you have a character, in my opinion, who's not really afraid to death of the monster, she's more like ready to go head to toe with it. She wants to take it head on. It makes it less scary to me.
I thought it was going to be a reversal from watching this movie from the beginning. I thought what they were going to do was Laurie would become the slasher.
Oh.
That's what I expected. I didn't. That's another thing I didn't get.
Okay, well, so there's like some there's
not a theory.
There's so much that I could say about these things that both of you just said. I actually okay. So there's,
like I Am Legend. He's Legend for killing them.
That type of thing. I'll bounce off what you just said, and then I'll bounce off what you just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
I disagree with you as far as the delivery. I actually thought I was scared that she was going to be Sarah Connor, and for me, it didn't come across as Sarah Connor at all. For me, I actually thought when it came down to it, she was just as terrified of Michael Myers when faced with against him as she was when she was a teenager. I think that despite all of her planning and all of the safe house building, she was ready. And when he got there, at least for me, the way that it was presented, she was fucking terrified and almost didn't succeed against him. And it only succeeded because of her daughter's help. And I was really surprised because I thought it was going to devolve. And I tweeted this about when it came out, and so I'm just repeating myself. But like in the wrong hands, this would have been Ash. This would have been like, one-liners, Michael Myers, and
Mine.
She.
That's
in your hands.
Oh, I would totally done that. Because all of the logic of this movie or the one you're talking about don't even make sense to me. Michael Myers is so intensely easy to kill. None of this makes sense to me.
Gotcha. You don't buy any of it.
I don't. I think if Laurie was actually planning to kill Mike Myers, the way that she did it was stupid.
It was horrible.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a bad plan. Yeah.
He should have been shredded by freaking machine guns. Right. After 40 years, that dude should be dead without. They don't need to burn down a house or anything.
Bouncing off of your idea
about
what
I'm saying, Jamie, come on.
That was the problem. I mean, we'll get to the trap later.
So you said you thought she was going to become a slasher. So there are rumors out there.
I was saying
and
that's what I would have done.
There's so many. You don't
Maybe.
know what to believe, what really happened in these, like, the misinformation age that we're in. There's like multiple people out there saying that there's a cut of the film an early cut of the film where she rammed the bus, and she. That explains all of her emotional before and after.
I was hoping that was the way it was going to go when she got to that point.
And
I was
that,
like,
I did
excited
too.
about
no,
that.
I did too.
And that, like, she was deliberately, which is fucking insane, and I kind of love that.
Yeah.
That she, like, rammed that bus, and that's the reason that he was out, because she specifically chose to make him escape.
When we got to that point, I thought that was going to happen, and I was like, this is cool.
Is that not in the script?
It's not in that script.
In the script
you
read?
I would agree. I literally thought that's what was
Yeah.
happening.
I'm not trying to rewrite the movie. I hate when we almost do that.
This is going to be interesting. But
why does this feel so apt to want to rewrite it? I don't know why, but like the second I left this movie, all I wanted to do was keep figuring out what I would have done.
You know what I thought she was going to be going into it, though? Not Ash. I thought she was going to be, and she was this to a certain extent, except for something I'm going to say. I thought she was going to be Donald Pleasance in this movie, right?
Yeah.
She's the one that knows the evil. She's going to be running around going, "You don't know Michael."
She's the half man.
Yeah. However, then they threw a Donald Pleasance
They
guy.
did.
They said, "You're the new
They
Donald
doubled
Pleasance."
down.
Yeah, they doubled down on it. And
But they
took
kind of
some away.
changed him midway through.
They did.
Yeah, they earned him. I actually wasn't it's like you said, it's a spoiler podcast. I have many problems with this script. I actually love the reversal of the Loomis being obsessed and a fan and wanting to help him in order to learn from him. I think that was a great reversal.
It explained away a lot of coincidence.
It
did.
does. It
And,
explains away the coincidence, but it doesn't do it. It like only in your mind. You have to go home and say, "Well, that may have happened."
So he might have been responsible for this, and he might have been responsible
it was like this
for
patch
that.
On it in some weird way.
It like needed that quick flash where they show him doing all of these things for Michael.
Right.
I did this. Good job, Michael.
Where he was responsible for everything.
Yeah.
Well, even to the point where I was like, maybe he like gave information about various people's locations of their houses and who the granddaughter's friends were, so he could specifically
he could find them.
I mean, it'd have to take it to a ridiculous level.
Yeah.
But you could do it.
I guess what I was trying to say with her becoming the slasher thing, my disappointment in that assumption where I know I'm rewriting the movie.
What the movie experience the movie for what it is, not what you want it to be.
But I feel like the movie was hinting at it because there's a lot of reversal of the shots, even where her face comes out of the darkness and stuff. The one thing that I expected that I felt like the movie thought it was doing that it didn't was make Michael Myers afraid. And I don't feel like at any point in this movie Michael Myers showed fear.
There's just that
Not
one.
How could he? I mean, it's hard to show fear, but I wanted that because I wanted that reversal to that degree where it like became Laurie Strode is what he fears.
There's the classic. The only moment I would say that they may be trying to do that really is that last shot where like
I guess
she's in the position looking down at him the way that he's usually in the position.
To me, that was more of a I'm gonna fucking get you for this. That was it.
Oh,
that was him just going like you're gonna pay. That was you're gonna pay.
I'm more red on him like shrug.
You're just shrug.
You know who I am?
Whatever. I'm fucking.
It's a
dead.
Monday.
It's a Monday.
Yeah.
This is a Monday for me. Yeah. People killing me.
Speaking though of the original, I was thinking I was trying to figure out the monster of the house of this movie and compared to the original. And the sin of it. So Monster in the House movies, most horror movies are Monster in the House movies. They have a house, they have a monster, and they have a sin. In this case, the house is kind of a neighborhood, so it's kind of a weird thing. But it really, the house is just isolation. Or something like that.
Yeah.
So what's the sin of Halloween compared to this movie? Like, what do you think?
I don't know.
Well, the sin of the first Halloween. What is that?
So, and I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I could be wrong.
Being young.
No, I actually think this, and this is something I think the two movies share to a certain extent. I think to a certain extent it's like underestimating evil, not playing with evil, not playing with fire.
Interesting.
But on Laurie's side, though,
well, strangely enough, I think here's and we'll get into this. So in the new movie or the old, so it doesn't.
I'm
have
talking
to
about the old one.
So it doesn't have to be any one person's sin.
Right.
So
right,
an innocent person could get screwed based on the town's. And in the first movie, I think Donald Pleasance is warning them like, "Don't transfer him. He's this and that, and blah blah blah." And then they go and transfer him anyway. They're like, "I don't care," because Donald Pleasance is like, "It's the night of Halloween. It's when he killed he is evil. He's the boogeyman." And they're like, "We don't care. We're just going to transfer him." And then he comes out and he ends up being killed. I think both movies are actually, and this is pretty rare, especially in a studio movie, for the second one, because the first one was an independent movie.
Yeah.
I think both movies are nihilistic. I think both movies, to an extent, say, evil's out there, you're screwed, deal with it. And they're like, I don't think they necessarily have an arc or a message. And
especially the first one.
Especially the first one.
Because that doesn't have any legacy to it.
The second one, because it's not a mini plot movie, it feels really, to me, weird that it didn't go in that direction.
You mean the second Halloween or the second?
I'm sorry,
2018.
The 2018.
Let's call it 2018. On this podcast, let's call it 2018.
So 2018. Okay? This is one of the things I took away with me. I've been thinking about after the movie. 2018 has a weird message, because the message is Laurie screwed over her daughter almost to an abusive point where they took her out of the house. But in the end, she was right.
Yeah, that
because
is
evil's
strange.
out there, and that's the message of that movie.
She wasn't crazy.
She wasn't crazy.
It's like the Santa Claus all over again.
So the message to me is
is that not the same thing?
Abuse your kids to the point where they can be taken away from you to get ready for evil, and you will be victorious. That is the message.
That's what we're shown. Yeah,
that's the moral of the movie.
That's what happens with the victory.
It's something you do not see too often in popular studio films.
Yeah,
usually Laurie would learn the lesson of somehow like, I shouldn't have done that to you, and somehow they'd win together.
She was right the whole time.
She was right the whole time, and the answer is, be almost abusive to your kid to be ready to defend
or
themselves.
I wouldn't say that's the answer. I would say it's family is not nearly as important as preparing for the doom.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, no, I agree. That softens it, but mine's more fun.
It is.
Be an abusive parent to be ready for a slasher is much more
God. That's so.
But that is the moral of the story.
I saw.
But how does that compare to the first one, though?
Well, I think both movies are nihilistic, and that evil is out there. It's coming for you.
The first one.
True.
How about this?
The second one,
there's nothing you can do about
definitely.
it.
The first one's nihilistic in that Laurie Strode in the first movie has no connection to Michael other than he just sees her and he wants to kill her.
Yep.
So it's funny, Jamie, that you're talking about
for you no matter what you did.
I agree with everything you're saying, except I don't think it was the intent of the screenwriter.
No,
I think
it could be the reshoots.
I think what you're saying is what we're shown and what is achieved in the film and the story. But I think what they're going for is the sin is letting your past define you, and they think that they are having her by defeating Michael, not having her past define her, but it's that very thing helps
it was
her.
the last 40 years of her life.
Right.
It defines her.
Yeah.
So she's not a victim, but she's totally a victim.
Yeah.
Instead of moving on from her life.
That's my argument that's the sin of this movie. But I'm saying what Jamie says, I agree with, is that they're saying, no, that's what saves you.
Yeah,
that's not a sin at all.
Lucky you did that.
Yeah, because you're survived.
You'd be dead.
Yeah. And then so we didn't write. We didn't
stuff.
write down. We didn't write down on the and I think that they're trying to say that for the town too. And I'm gonna talk about this a little bit in a minute. I think they failed at that. I don't think that this town is stuck in being the town where Michael Myers murdered people, which I think it should be. But I think that they think it is based. It's like that pre-existing stuff. It's like that's not there, but the audience feels it, so they feel like they don't need to do the work.
Yeah,
the pop culture weight hangs above them whether they remove it or not.
Right,
it's true.
So so I think they're even trying to express that through the town, that the town lets their sin, letting the sins of the past define it. But I don't think that was achieved. But we didn't write down theme on this list to talk about, but it's got your classic. I want to talk about it because it's got Jamie's classic "Go to the Classroom." Right?
Oh yeah,
dude. They're both. And
give us a refresh.
In the okay, go for it, Jamie.
So usually the theme is something when you're in a classroom setting or you get a speech or something like that. They write something on the board or something like that, or they talk about some homework assignment they read, and that is usually the theme. So.
Yeah, and the second it came up in this movie, I was like, "Oh my god!" I thought of Jamie. It's funny that you thought of me with the insecurity line, and I was like, "It's a classroom scene.
It's a
Here comes the
classroom-
theme."
Here it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Here it comes.
Literally, they
Yeah.
say
I
it.
I usually get my pen out at that point.
Yeah. So in the original, the classroom scene, I'm not gonna quote the philosopher, but who it was, but in the original, the classroom scene says, "Fate is out of our hands and completely out of our control." In the
Kind of
new
nihilistic.
Now,
Yep, exactly.
I agree that this movie's ending, which is what we should take away from it, is nihilistic, but the classroom scene says we decide our fate, we choose our own suffering. That is like what's discussed in the classroom. So they're trying to say it's not nihilistic, but then the events that end up in the final cut are very much, I think.
I mean, what is that saying though? If Laurie chose the different path of like getting over this and moving on and becoming a normal family woman,
Yeah, I
she
don't
wouldn't
know.
have had this problem.
I don't know.
Because that
Yeah.
guy had
So
nothing
is it a
to
mess?
do with Laurie.
Do you
The
guys think-
doctor, what's his name? Sartain.
Sartain.
Steven, where'd I get that? So like he would have still done what he did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he then if she still lived there, Michael would have came and killed
I-
her
So
whole
you guys
family.
think it's kind of
I mean, being optimistic toward them, to the writer, I
Right.
could say she chose not to be a victim, but to take it to him. And
right, and I
therefore
agree that there's an
vanquish
argument
the
for that,
evil.
and she vanquished the evil. So she took fate into her own hands. She built the safe house. Then, when it came time to it, she didn't back down. She faced him and overcame.
Really,
him.
the arc character is Judy Greer, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
So
we're gonna-
she arcs from a point of being mad at her mother to being, oh, my mother did right,
Yeah,
and that wins the day.
yeah.
So,
But that
but again,
takes
I'm-
up
it makes for a weird message.
11 minutes of the movie.
I really don't know though if I agree on how the movie views victimhood though, because to me it seems like Michael Myers was in her brain for 40 years.
I agree. Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
she's strong as a character,
yeah.
but she also isn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
I know we're three privileged white guys
Stuck.
talking about this,
but
but
Judy
you know what
Greer,
I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's a victimhood premise here that he
Judy-
was terrorizing her for 40 years.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, Judy,
Michael Myers was still there.
He was in prison, but he was still
Judy
chasing her.
Greer makes some points to her mother about that early in the movie. That seem to be establishing some kind
Of
of
theme.
compromiser theme. But again, I think Judy Greer is the one that changes her mind, and not Jamie Lee Curtis or
Yeah.
Laurie.
No, you're right. That's why the whole movie kind of feels off.
It does. It feels weird.
It feels weird because
You know what it feels like? It feels like, not to at all shame my favorite writer, Danny McBride, or my favorite performer, but it feels like sometimes when I see newer writers, I see this problem where they kind of have a feel for character arc and theme, but they don't exactly know how to wield it. So they
Right.
put places in there like a classroom and like a mom-daughter talk that don't necessarily play out in multiple places in the story.
Right.
They just kind of then tack something.
They're
on
checking the
end.
boxes.
They check boxes, but they don't realize how to actually lay the
Cinematically
story out.
unearned. It's the you put it there because
I'll put
the
a philosopher quote here,
story...
Yeah,
and I don't really have to worry about what that means or if it's going to play out. Right.
yeah. And the first,
Mhm.
Right. I'm sorry, I
Exactly.
didn't mean to cut you off,
Yeah.
but yeah.
quite
I
hon-
thought you were coming with a philosopher quote.
yeah, no, that's what I thought too.
I was like,
Yeah, I thought he
do
was
it,
gonna-
Bob.
Oh, just anything, you know.
Kierkegaard once said. you know, so
That's the theme of this episode. isn't it?
Kierkegaard, we could put his quote on a poster.
I
for
think,
Halloween.
therefore I am.
Yeah.
Right?
But that said,
That's good.
the
Yeah.
first Halloween 1978, I guess we're calling it. That movie didn't have necessarily a character arc at all.
Yeah.
So it
and that was
didn't-
okay.
It didn't have to do any of these things. It just stripped them away. But because this movie
It's
is
conventional.
again stylized, it's Hollywood.
It's
I'll call
genre.
it.
It's genre.
genre,
Yeah.
yeah.
It has to have those things, or otherwise we feel off because we're
Yeah.
used to them.
But
Yeah.
you couldn't avoid that if Laurie's involved.
I agree.
There's no way. I just don't see a way, unless it was completely stupid,
Yeah.
to have Laurie be the person to interact with Michael Myers in a movie
Yeah.
without all of that. What you're saying?
without,
Yeah.
You
without
can't
being
just have
a,
it random.
without being a movie.
Right. It has to be.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sympathetic to them for doing what
Absolutely.
I don't-
100%.
Look,
yeah.
all the sequels, and I'm a fan of Halloween movies.
Me
all
too.
the sequels had the same problem.
Exactly.
You know, so I love
100%.
Halloween 4, but Halloween 4 is just very different than Halloween 1978.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a different animal.
Right.
I almost don't think they can even be compared.
No.
Really. They're just
No.
different things.
No.
It's funny we were like jumping back and forth. Jamie, what is Danny McBride's rule?
Danny McBride's rule. I just saw this in some interview or something.
Because I'm like,
I know I'm interested in this.
No,
I'm very
he
interested.
basically just had a rule for the other writers. He said no jokes until the scares start.
okay.
So no ha-ha to the stabby.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's an emphasis on trying to balance out the horror and the
I-
comedy.
And I just threw this in here. I was like, does this make sense as a good rule to you? Do you
I
like
think it's
this
a cool
rule?
rule. I think it's a cool rule.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't really know. I have
I'm
to
really
see it in practice
agnostic.
more, I
Yeah.
think.
Because I'm sure Scream had some jokes before the stabby.
Yeah,
or
it'd be
something.
But
interesting
Scream's
to
also-
check.
It's different.
It'd be
Scream's
interesting to take
also-
this and watch
apply
a
it to
few
other
opening
movies.
scenes
Yeah.
of horror movies.
Scream's also a dissection of slashers. That's kind of a
Yeah, I'm not sure
Yes.
the original Halloween had a lot of good jokes that I remember.
none.
I'm
no.
sure
It's
there was some banter between
I was lucky enough to-
teenagers.
I was lucky enough to see a double feature of Thanks
I
Pat
think
Stork if you ever
that's
listen.
so
I saw
amazing.
a double feature of the first movie and this movie in one night.
Together, back to
Together,
back.
back at the Senator in Baltimore. It was great.
Oh,
The first movie is very dire and very quiet.
Mhm.
It is not. There's
Yeah.
no jokes in it.
Yeah.
To put jokes in the new one would have made it feel like number 8.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like it's not. It shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Because the pop culture of it shouldn't be there.
right.
There shouldn't be anyone joking about Mike Myers because he's a distant memory that happened one night 40 years ago.
Right, right.
Do you know? I don't know what happened 40 years ago
I-
in my neighborhood.
I'm gonna completely disagree with you on this one. This is jumping down way
Good.
down.
Go
but
for
okay. I mean, I have lots of things I don't believe about this movie.
it. Okay.
Now let me just say, because I have a lot of horror friends who are gonna be like,
Okay.
"Why did you sit there and just bash it?" I really enjoyed this movie. I love Halloween movies. Michael Myers is my favorite, horror icon. I think he's terrifying. I'm okay with the retconning. I'm fine with it. It's fine.
Right.
It's fine. And I
Now tell us why all that's false.
absolutely love the third act. I think this movie figured out what it was supposed to be in the last 20 minutes. And in my opinion, the whole movie should have been the last 20
And
minutes.
what?
But you go to you experience the movie that you watched, not what you wanted it to be. So anyway, but Jamie, you and we've never talked about the one of the tools of premise creation, which is why here, why now. And I learned this
Mhm.
from you.
Okay.
I learned this from Jamie too.
Yeah.
I want to say
You
that.
want to talk about those rules first?
I learned it-
tools, not rules.
I learned it from David Mamet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one of his rules.
Okay.
So, and I've repeated it often, but it's something you can apply to a lot of different parts of your writing. So you can apply it to your premise. You know, why does this have to happen now? You know, why does this thing have to happen now? But what David Mamet does, he forces his writers, when he does show running, he forces them to say, for every scene, why does this scene have to happen right now? Why here? Why now?
But you're
That's
talking
awesome.
premise.
But
though.
yeah, premise.
There's both. It works in both.
Wow, applying that to scenes is great.
Yeah, Mamet's actually thing. It's scene level.
Wow.
It's why does this? He challenges
That's a
his
pretty
writers
incredible role.
to come up with why does this have to happen now? And
I
that,
think-
that way you get away from
Wow.
coincidence and all that stuff.
Man,
Yeah.
that's awesome. But so
But it applies to premise.
I think if you since I learned this from Jamie, I've been finding with not only my own ideas but helping other writers that it really helps nail down the premise, because if the story could happen any other time, then it's not in the character's life,
Mhm.
then it's not ready to tell.
Right.
And if it could happen anywhere, any setting in the world for this character, then it's also not ready to tell. Those specific answers really inform everything. And so the why now of this movie is they
Transfer.
let Michael Myers out on the 40th anniversary of his murders for shits and giggles.
Hold
Oh,
on.
Yeah.
Steven,
Retroactively.
I'm pretty sure he had a hand in
Yeah.
planning that.
That's again the coincidence that explains all
Mm,
the weird
What's his
thing that
name again?
explains.
Sorry.
Sartain.
Sartain.
That's never mentioned.
He's
in the
not
movie.
mentioned, but I thought the moment that he was revealed, his reveal explained that very question to me
I-
in the theater.
I hated the fact that was it, but I think
that's-
it does.
It does. Okay, I'm wrong on this.
No, well,
I'm
I mean,
wrong on
I'm not
this.
saying I like it.
Yeah.
I'm saying to me that was the
No,
explanation.
it seemed like this weird kind of pattern scratch that explained a lot of the coincidences.
Right.
It's like they threw it in
They're
last
like,
minute.
"Shit!"
So look, no, but to your point, the whole movie, it was driving me crazy that they were transferring them on Halloween night.
Absolutely.
And I was
I
sitting
don't.
there
That's
just,
the why now.
I was sitting there saying, you know what? I know they think anybody can write a horror movie, but these guys don't respect a horror movie if they're feeding us this crap.
Right.
That was
That this would ever
It was
happen.
bothering me the
And-
whole movie. And then I was like, when the doctor happened, I kind of let go of that.
You were like,
problem.
okay.
I was like, okay.
No,
I guess
I
can do
felt the exact same as Jamie the whole time.
Yeah.
We didn't see it together, but
Yeah.
I like when the doctor reveal happened, I was like, oh, there was so many questions in my mind. I was like, well, now I can't argue any of that.
it. Yeah, that was
Okay.
kind
Like, I was like, okay, because if it kept going the way it was going, I was going to be
Gotcha.
like,
I'm not.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure that that's good writing either. You know, because I was
Right.
really
It's a
frustrated.
solution. Is it a good?
It's
is
a
it
solution.
a satisfying
is
solution?
it a compelling solution?
It works. Okay.
Maybe if he was like,
You've convinced me.
No,
I
but
will
I-
experience it.
it
different
works,
next
but it's not great or compelling.
time. Right.
But there is an explanation there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my second thing I don't believe is there's three aspects of it, and they all involve that. I don't believe that see, I disagree with you about the 40. I don't remember what this guy did. I mean, think about the Hell House legend around here. We've got this local Hell House legend.
I mean, that's a legend, though.
Which is it's based on a true event. And it's exactly what would happen if in a random town, if you lived in a small town and some guy 40 years ago killed some people with a mask on. Like, it's too iconic of a story.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
No, I'm saying,
It's
like,
just-
it doesn't make sense that the town would not be obsessed with this event. Like,
I don't think that-
about
I
Blair, the
disagree.
Blair Witch Project. What is it, Burkittsville? It's not even a real thing, and like people come to Burkittsville because
I
they
don't
think
think
the Blair
they'd be
Witch was
obsessed.
a real thing.
I think they would be knowledgeable about it, but it wouldn't be defining characters of the town.
Man,
If you
I
got
totally
rid of all the
disagree.
sequels, I think it wouldn't be the. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be the defining characteristic of Haddonfield.
Gotcha.
I don't think it would be,
Gotcha.
and
For me-
especially 40 years later.
Yeah.
I don't think because you would have new parents that were kids then. I don't
Yeah.
think I think it would be like,
I don't know where I fall on it, because on one hand, because it's Halloween and all that, you know, the trappings would make it more
maybe on that
legendary.
day, yeah.
That's
would,
what I'm saying.
Maybe, but
Everybody be losing their shit.
On-
Michael
No.
Myers.
Yeah,
Is,
on,
yes.
on the flip
but
side,
they all didn't know.
and if there was,
But
a,
they would know.
yeah,
Is
it-
what I'm saying.
No,
All
I'm
of
saying
them.
about him being out, released.
But they would know he was being transferred, and they would be
Well,
fearing that he would be released. He
Yeah.
would get
Did
out.
they announce? Was there? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's
it was
been a
on the
month.
news. There's
Oh, it
a
was on the news?
newscast. That's how the
All right,
cops.
I'm sorry.
And the
it's
cops.
been a month.
There's a second insecurity line from
Right.
the cop, and he says they're transferring Michael Myers
Myers.
40 years after the anniversary of him
Right.
murdering a bunch of people in Haddonfield.
Was he reading the back of a DVD?
He says that, and he laughs, and he says something that's like, we're in for some wild shit. Like,
Yeah.
he says something like that, and it's
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
Strap in.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I'm being really hard on it because I just think they could have done.
You're being easier on it than I
Better.
am, though. So
I
you're giving it that. You're
I'm
giving
just
it that.
what I'm saying is, I don't believe the world, the 40 years later world of Haddonfield that this presents, based on the events of the first movie and the history of the franchise that we're supposed to believe is the. this is
I-
You're
continuing
saying the
off of.
town should be going ape shit.
Absolutely,
Right.
Mike. They're fucking
Okay.
transferring Michael Myers on Halloween.
Well,
like,
I will
there should
concede
be
to what
protesters.
Now
there
that I
should
forgot
be-
about the newscast, I agree
there
with
should be
Jimmy.
protesters.
I agree with
This
Jimmy.
is an event.
Wasn't there
Yeah.
even a line where he said something like, "What am I going to do? Cancel Halloween?"
Like,
yes.
what's that?
It's like Jaws in the
And
beach.
I was like, "Can't you cancel Halloween?"
Yeah, you can.
Like, that's
Yeah.
not hard.
Yeah.
That's, it wasn't Jaws on the beach where it
It's-
depended on their survival.
Well, yeah.
You just tell everybody to go home.
Exactly.
cancel Halloween all the
Perfect.
time.
It's they've done exactly.
Yeah,
They've
I was-
done it. Yeah.
I was like, who cares?
Do it.
You just say, "Hey, everybody, go home. There's a mass killer on the
There's a
loose."
ma-
What-
exactly.
Oh my God, my trick or treat
But then,
candy.
but then
Yeah,
there's
who
then
cares?
there's no movie. I guess for
Oh,
I'll just
that-
break it down to this. It was treated by everyone in the world of the story except for Laurie as so unceremonious that he was being transferred on Halloween.
Again,
Okay,
though,
wait.
that's the theme.
Now hold on a sec.
Other
Let me me.
You're right.
add
Shit, it's
to-
nihilist, man. Nothing matters.
Yeah, nothing matters.
If
Nothing.
I
If he
could-
kills some people in the town, who gives a shit?
Gonna
We're
add-
underestimating evil.
Nothing
Gonna add to what
matters.
Jimmy's saying. I wish you guys didn't have like nigh the same name. Scream sequels. do that very thing you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They are, you know what I mean? The town is completely traumatized.
It's because it's what would happen.
Right.
It's plausible.
It is. It's not 40 years, but it's still like this happened. Like Scream 4. This happened.
The wound
like 10
is
years,
still
15
healing.
years
Now,
ago,
one thing they
20
add,
years ago.
one thing they add that I think would fuel that.
Right.
Not,
That's what
not to
happened.
debate the logic of that at all, because I think you're right, but the one thing that Scream movies have is they have the stab movies and the books and the stuff like that.
Yes.
Jamie's also right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And this one just has a soon-to-be-released podcast that nobody cares about.
But I don't
People get
believe
murdered.
that is what I just don't believe that that's all that somebody like
God.
some two British people discovered this 40 years later. No, bullshit. Think about all the serial killers out there. Michael Myers and what he actually did is just as fucking it would be
Well, he killed
celebrated
4 people in 1978.
on Halloween wearing a mask.
Was it
Dude,
4 people?
It's
I think
Yeah,
it's 4.
4.
It was 4.
his dude. Think about the Night Stalker, like Richard Ramirez. Think about how our culture celebrates serial killers.
To clarify, the criticism is that no one respects Michael Myers.
Right. Which
it
I
had-
don't
which
Which is
believe.
the theme of the first movie. Underestimating evil, no respect for evil.
I've said my piece on that. Get it all out there.
I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
for everyone listening.
I'm fucking rambling like a madman.
This is a heavy movie to discuss. So
So
keep
that-
going. You got
that-
like
those,
nine pages
Those were
of stuff.
No, I don't. Those were the things I didn't believe about the premise, the why now, and that the police wouldn't take it seriously, that the town wouldn't take it seriously.
But you're changing your stance on the why now because of the stupid doctor.
It works. It does the job. It's
not
not
good.
satisfying, but it does the job because I actually love the idea of that guy sabotaging the bus. Like when that happened, I was like, oh man, I can picture him like fucking up the steering wheel with the cop. And,
Honestly, if they just leaned into it a little more, I think it would
That's
have been
not
better.
no.
Yep, they
I was trying to
should've.
say earlier, like maybe making him a bigger character.
Right.
Yep, I
Would've
agree.
made-
So you're bringing up my next point.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Go ahead for it.
For me, there is a lot of like underutilized characters. It's just the whole thing, like the boyfriend. Let's talk about the boyfriend.
God.
He exists to throw a cell phone into cheese dip. Okay,
Yeah,
That's the only reason
exactly.
he's there.
It's true.
And,
Gotta admit, I enjoyed that moment.
Did too.
by the way, that party was bizarre.
It was really
It was
weird.
like something out of Vice Principals, and then they came like in the Bonnie and Clyde outfit. I was like, "What is this? that was the weirdest." Nobody's talking about that part of the movie, but when I saw that part of the movie, that was the part that stuck with me the most.
It's
This
strange.
weird high school Halloween party that was just minimalist. And,
Yeah, it
you know,
was
Like
weird.
there's kids dressed as like the mummy and stuff, and I was like, I don't really see that anymore.
it was just strange.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just all that strange.
Anyway, but so anyway, there was a cheese dip kid. There's
Cheese
the,
dip.
the doctor's really there to explain the coincidence to some respect.
Yeah.
Not because I
I
really
think
like.
he's a clever reversal of
I
Loomis.
liked his turn, but then they just squash his head 2 seconds later.
Yeah,
right?
they do. They don't
So,
do anything. with
I
it.
wanted to see him do something.
Yeah, dude,
Me too.
he could have sabotaged the safe house.
Yeah, like maybe.
Honestly, I
he
sat
pushes,
up when
he
that
pushes
part
the
happened. I was
finale.
like, okay.
I thought he was gonna push
shit.
the finale toward
Yeah.
itself,
I know.
and then his head blows up.
But I
pretty much.
loved that it at least explained. I was the entire time I was watching the trailers, I was dreading how are they going to make me believe that Michael Myers would follow her to this safe house, and then the fact that this doctor
drove
is
her.
driving
He
her,
drove- yeah.
driving him directly to her
the
door.
safe- You're right.
I was like, I love that.
Right.
So because he wants to see Michael kill, like that is scary. I love
And it
that.
explains it away. It's
yeah,
not a coincidence.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a couple. I am not now. I'm blanking on a couple of the other characters that literally exist just to move people from one place to another.
There's so many.
That but anyway, it was just one of these weird storytelling things.
I agree with you completely.
Great.
I actually feel like I feel like it's trying to be. It's basically. It does feel like you said like early writers. Like it's trying to be a teen horror movie, and then it's trying to be the final girl versus slasher showdown movie.
Right.
And then it's also trying to be a family drama
It's
between mother
Kind
and
of checking the
daughter.
boxes of all those
It's-
things.
And then it never gives you enough of any of those three.
Right.
It gives you 20 minutes of each of those
It's
things.
a taste.
because
Taste of each.
Right, except it thinks it's giving you
Full on.
the full on for
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
I think this movie over and over feels like it thinks it's doing all of these things that it's not.
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean,
we got the mother-daughter story down. I mean, they had 3 moments together.
Yeah, it's just a
And
couple
then
of
we
them,
got the teen horror movie. I mean, she had 3 scenes.
Right. It was weird too because she has like one scene with Michael Myers and the rest of her scenes just running like for a while. You know, she has the
she's
cop
in the
car,
woods for
and
10
then she's
minutes.
in the woods for like
You mean
10 minutes.
The daughter.
Yeah.
Running, running,
Yeah.
See,
running.
and she witnesses her friend that hit on her killed, right?
That's
The-
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember.
No, it's okay.
He's
Yeah.
smushed against the gate.
Right, he
you know?
gets
Love
smushed
that
against the gate.
scene.
Yeah.
Great scene. Really
Yeah,
funny.
Good kills.
Good
Yeah.
kills, but
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really need
Yeah.
it.
No, but it was a good premise
Yeah,
delivery.
You're right. I mean, a lot of this stuff you didn't really need. Like, I mean, everybody's favorite scene from this movie is probably the babysitter and the kid. You know,
Oh, let's
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about it.
the little Danny McBride written scene. That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah.
I'm saying he wrote that scene.
Yeah.
But that's another scene that's filled with coincidence. Like,
Yeah.
why is Michael Myers at her best friend's house? He just
Yeah,
lucked into that.
exactly.
He just
Yeah.
walked into a house
Yeah.
to
Walked
kill
into
people.
the
yeah.
one house that we just happened to set up the character, and there
Yeah.
it was, and it was, you know, it's just kind of odd.
Do you remember what I said when we were chatting about it originally? I said it's like Michael Myers had somebody put a tracking device
Yeah.
on the characters
Well-
in their order of importance to the story.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then he tracked them down one by one. This person is the least important. Now this person is the next
Well,
and most
so-
It doesn't feel random like the original. Where
Yeah.
where the kids are just kind of there.
There,
and he kills
in the
he-
neighborhood.
He kills through kids to
It's-
get to the one he
yeah.
desires.
It's not
Yeah.
allowed to be random, and even then, it was proximity was the reason. Basically,
Yeah. And that was motivated.
it was motivated.
Yeah. And we believe it.
Now, here's here's the ridiculous thing. So when I was hot about this movie and its coincidences,
I love the fact that you were passionate.
No,
Yes. Let's hear it, Jamie.
but no,
I'll
here's-
shut up.
I always like to think of it from the other side, and there are people that really enjoyed this movie a lot and thought it worked perfectly.
Good. I'm
And-
glad you did.
So I'm gonna stand in their shoes now. The reason he went to her house was because the doctor had him memorize all the addresses around her. I'm trying to do. That's basically what I hear a lot of about this. The doctor did it.
Jesus
The
Christ.
doctor told him where to go. I don't
Like the
But
podcasters.
why?
know.
The podcasters need
I'm
to
joking.
get gas
Nobody said
and they
that.
need to take a dump. So they stop at a gas station, a random gas station, and
Michael
Michael
Myers
Myers
happens-
just so happens to be there at the exact moment
Yeah.
that they need to get gas and then
Right.
take a
Right.
dump.
Again, if the second movie or the fourth movie existed, he could have been more of a boogeyman presence. This
Yeah, that's
could all
fine.
be explained through demonics or something.
Right.
But
And-
by the way,
And I'm fine with that.
you know what? It shouldn't be called the babysitter murders. It should be called the mechanic murders because
Yeah.
this is the second mechanic he's killed. And
Dude, he's got to get
Yeah,
that suit
no,
back.
I thought about
he's
that.
killed as many
That,
mechanics.
Jamie, I'm so happy you said it because when he killed the mechanic, I was like, "Is anyone going to talk about the fact this dude is murdering mechanics?"
He just killed
Watch out,
mechanics.
Haddonfield Mechanics.
If
It
I
was
exactly.
that's another thing too. It was like for a movie that I think, like you're saying, is confused about how grounded it is. It's like, would he get the same clothes again? Like
Yeah.
the mask I could deal with because we have to deal with that. But
Right.
like he's gonna wear overalls, a onesie again. Like what? You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Like it just
know.
seems like it almost would have to be like. Oh, I know. I'm rewriting.
It makes me think
I'm
of
rewriting
the
it,
deal
but it's
with
like
it,
a
Jeff.
storage unit that has his clothes from the original, and he
Right.
pulls them out.
Yeah.
Well, what if the podcasters had the
Yeah.
whole outfit or something? I don't know.
That would have made
It would've been
right,
fine.
But him to kill another mechanic and take his
Yeah.
clothes,
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
like, what?
And he's wearing the blue ones,
The-
man. I
the
mean,
podcasters could have had the knife. They could
We
have
ne-
gotten all the collection somehow.
Yeah.
Like,
And then
yeah.
there you go. It explains
That would explain it.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's what happens when you're trying to retcon like this.
Yeah.
But
But what Amy just said would be so easy to write. They had the mask.
yeah, I
They
know.
literally just needed
Michael,
two more items.
have the girl stand next to it. What about this?
right.
Waving
just
his
tempting
his mechanic's
Right.
uniform next to the mask.
I never thought in the
That'd
also.
make a great SNL
I don't know about you
skit.
guys, but in the original movie, I never thought that he like wanted to wear that mechanic's clothes.
No,
They
it
were
was
just
in the
available.
It
way.
was like the Terminator.
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that's like Michael Myers knowing that he has a uniform
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and putting it on. You know, it doesn't make sense.
gotta
with
get
one,
to a gas station and find me a
Gotta
mechanic.
get me a mechanic onesie, or else I'm not Michael Myers without it. Yeah.
Man.
That onesie is probably my favorite bit.
God. And they don't even show him doing all that. It just has happened.
It has happened, right?
Which they don't show
You know
that
what
in the
it is?
first movie. But
We can forgive it in like Terminator 2.
Yeah.
He just goes in there. He's already programmed to want that stuff. I
Yeah.
guess. Whatever.
But it's played for comedy in Terminator 2.
So it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I mean, he's bad at the bonus playing in the background.
Yeah, no, it works. It's light. It's light. It's really light.
I guess I don't know what would be playing in the background of Michael Myers facing down a mechanic.
John Carpenter music.
Tough enough? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
So we talked about unnecessary. So yeah, what did you guys think about the kid scene?
The kids, the
little kid
the
scene
in
who
the
stole the
closet and
movie.
stuff.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it except for the fact that we saw the trailer, the stinger. But other than that, I enjoyed it.
It's fine.
I thought it was funny, but it's a
it.
great example of one character being in a completely different movie. It worked, but it's like a great teaching moment of.
There were two scenes like that too, because then the cops talking about the sandwich was a little bit like that.
Yeah, in another movie,
Yeah.
like the kid literally says to the one teenage character, "Go up there and die." Like, come on. And he's like, "There's some guy in my closet." Like,
also it's the
but it's fucking funny.
It's the comic relief who is smart enough to run.
Yeah,
it's the
I
Scooby
like
and the
that,
Shaggy. It's Scooby and the Shaggy, right?
And in a movie that otherwise is trying to present itself as not a movie.
Yeah. Well, again, it's why it is tonally very different than the original, even though it has similarities.
Yeah,
The original wouldn't get away with something quite like that. Not as clever.
There's nobody in the original with life like that kid.
Yeah, exactly.
No one, or that sass, that perspective, anything.
I mean, just the casting of this movie. Also, I mean, once you see Judy Greer, you know you're in a movie, right? And once you see
that's true.
The husband, you know you're in a movie.
They're so well known. Yeah, that's a good call.
I just want to say too, I'm okay with it not being the original.
Me too.
I really want to make that clear.
Me too.
I'm just pointing out how these things are on different tracks and can't really get away with the same.
I think the problem is that like when we consider the writing team, you know, and there's part of me that kind of wishes that it was kind of Ash.
I think it would have. I think it would have been great.
They would have been number one. Yes, it might have been a little bit hacky, but those guys would have laid into that, and it would have been nuts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like maybe that's more what they were cut out for,
Yeah.
and they were forcing
Danny
themselves.
McBride would have been Dr. Sartan.
Dude.
Yeah.
But like, I think I would have walked out. Like it wouldn't have been a good. It wouldn't have been a good sequel, but I would have walked out.
Awesome.
I would have preferred maybe to what they did here. I would have preferred
Danny
the
McBride,
sight.
Michael.
Right, but I would have
the
preferred
boogeyman.
the experience of what they would have done if they were off the leash instead of this.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I don't know if they're the guys that should have done this.
Right.
Gotcha.
Been respectful.
Then they were. I think
they were really
I
respectful.
think they were extremely respectful, but I don't know if they were the ones that should have been hired to be respectful.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
I remember the rumor about this was this Halloween was owned by Dimension before Miramax got it back. They had to make a movie in a certain amount of time, and Adam Wingard was the guy they approached.
Oh wow.
Oh really?
I don't know if it was right after The Guest or whatever, you know. And he turned him down. He said he couldn't do it just because he couldn't. Like, I don't know.
He probably respects it way too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Good. I mean, that's good for him.
He turned it down, and then it fell to Miramax, and Miramax approached Blumhouse, and that's how.
Okay.
That's how it came about. I don't know what that.
There was a
means.
Marcus Dunstan version of this year.
There was that
5
one
years
too.
ago.
I think that one might have been the one that actually fell through. Now that you say it, I think that was the one they were trying to push.
Because I saw a little some fan made trailer.
That was
for
a
it, and I was
sequel.
like, what is this?
That was going to be a
that was
sequel
gonna
that
be a sequel.
respected all the rest of it. Yeah.
Who's
the protagonist of this movie?
I think it thinks Laurie is, but I think it's a kind of
I think it's
all
her
over the
daughter.
place.
I might say her daughter.
I was debating, like when I was watching, I was like,
think
is
the
it
daughter
is it the granddaughter? Is it the daughter? Oh, by the way, one other thing.
Oh, sorry, the granddaughter.
The granddaughter.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to say the daughter.
The teenager.
Yeah, there's only 9 generations
Yeah.
of everyone in this movie.
It's hard to say because Judy Greer feels like she has the arc.
She has the big.
The daughter doesn't need an arc.
Yeah.
The
The
youngest.
daughter's Laurie Strode from 40 years ago.
Yeah, she doesn't really need an arc.
But you would think she'd be more informed too.
She seems to be the most well adjusted. She's looking at
Right?
it from the
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
And then Laurie is the one
I
that
don't
seems
know the
like she
answer to
needs
this
an arc,
question.
but then wins in the end.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky movie to figure out who has.
Yeah.
And the original Halloween is also tricky to figure that out, even though it's Laurie because she's the only one left.
Yeah.
She doesn't really have a story like a protagonist.
She's a side. The original movie. It's like, what if this happened to a side character in a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest writing issue with this movie is grandmother.
Oh, over and over. Who says that?
God, that bothered me. No,
Over and over.
I'm
Really?
kidding. I'm
Oh,
kidding.
okay. I was gonna say,
No,
really?
I'm kidding that it's my biggest issue. But it did bug me. That
Who
he
says-
kept saying grandmother.
I mean,
Grandmother.
Who says
if you guys
grandmother?
say that,
I'm like,
that's-
what's up with
I'm
grandmother?
sorry
Who
to
wrote
be a
that?
jerk.
That's
Especially in 2018.
Yeah,
you know, it's like,
grandmother.
Grandmother.
that-
Maybe they thought it would make it stand out.
it was. Yeah.
Maybe it's
I
an
don't know.
overseas thing. They want like people in China say grandmother or something.
Grandmother just
Wow.
drove me nuts.
I don't know.
No,
I'm
that
just
could
I
be.
am just guessing. I don't know.
A
I am just guessing.
I'm like, do I need to go change
Well,
all my scripts?
Grandmother.
We're asking who the protagonist is, and no one has a specific answer.
No.
Who's the antagonist?
Oh,
Oh, I definitely think it's
Michael.
Michael. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you don't think it's Dr. Sartan?
Yeah. Well,
He's one of
He
them.
is responsible for
contributes,
literally
but-
everything.
yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think he's the actual.
I guess I was hoping that in the end, when I walked away, that Laurie Strode would be the antagonist somehow.
Oh man.
I guess I was going for way more
Anti-hero.
cerebral in my expectations
Yeah.
than it was.
So
You know, and I can't expect a movie to be something it isn't. So
So back to this edited ending or whatever.
Yeah.
the ending that
Oh,
is. Let's talk about
yeah.
the ending that is.
So
yeah.
the ending that is versus the ending that wasn't too. I'd like to hit on real
Okay.
quick. It's interesting because the ending that wasn't the one that's in this script that's floating around, it doesn't have a trap. There's nothing like that. So it almost feels like she was just defending herself in that house. But honestly, if I had seen that, it would have blown my skull to pieces. Because I would have been like, why didn't you just move? You know? Why didn't you just go into hiding or something? Why live in the
Yeah.
same town in the woods? So I almost wonder if that's part of the reason why they went with it's a trap.
Right.
They might have driven
one
him to-
Explain
giant
why she's
trap.
still there.
Why she's
Yeah.
still there? Because
Yeah.
then it totally made sense.
Yeah.
It's one of these
Come
good,
and get me.
It's one of these positive writing evolution things that can happen. Like sometimes you can
Yeah.
have something that doesn't make any sense that then becomes a big cathartic moment in the end of your script. So I kind of give them props for
And that happens a lot.
It happens a
Good
lot.
problems that
Good
yeah.
problems. Like,
yeah.
like the thing that honestly it's one of the big moments. Like a cheer moment. Like a cheer went out in the crowd. They were like,
Yeah.
it's a
Oh my
trap."
gosh.
Oh.
The crowd I saw it with loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think.
What do you think about the ending?
I think there's a
though,
lot
guys?
of stuff about the trap that was kind of pushing the limits of logic, but
yeah.
like the things that she thought up to trap Michael, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Well, why do that out of all the 40 years and you came up with this?
Yeah.
I just don't. I needed more. I needed to know who Laurie was a little more.
Yeah, because
to understand why that house was like it was.
Gotcha.
it almost made her like a crazy hoarder who came up with a trap or something.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like it puts mannequins all over the place just to make it scarier.
Yeah,
Like I
right.
turn all the lights out.
Why wouldn't
You
it just look like a normal house?
Yeah, it was weird. Or why not put the cage in the foyer? Or why not put the
Yeah.
cage
Yeah,
in the
why not
you know,
just have the house locked down completely and then blow up
yeah.
completely?
And also
My
I'm not-
response is always, I think that I agree with you, but they wanted it to be
It
a
has to be a
longer
movie.
Yeah. Well,
But there is sometimes those questions don't make sense, but sometimes they do, especially when you're talking about time.
but
Yeah.
She had 40 years.
Yeah.
This isn't like a month.
Yeah.
also
Okay.
why hide your cage in the one room that's hidden from the entire house?
It doesn't
Why not make it
I
And-
don't get that.
Right. And
Right.
then not only do you do that, but you have to put somebody down there
For him
be
to go
locked with
down
him
into
without
it.
a secret like door to go out and say, you're trapped.
Yeah.
It like
it's
didn't make any sense.
Her
really
plan was
risky.
based on all the like small moments that led to people being able to get out of that basement. What if he just grabbed her leg all the better and pulled her down? I'm like, then your plan sucks.
So there,
Your daughter would be dead. Well, like, I don't. Okay,
then
it doesn't
the
matter.
clearing the room, and then
You know what I'm saying, right?
there was the clearing the room
agree,
thing
yeah.
as well. Like when she was going and clearing the room, I didn't quite.
Yeah, I was like, what do you do?
I
Blow this house up? Would you hit the button and
Yeah.
just leave?
And
She was
apparently
scared
could.
though.
She shouldn't be though.
Well,
'Cause
it-
Nah, I
If-
liked that she
But
was
if she's
scared.
scared, why would she go and clear all the rooms? Wouldn't she just hide in the basement?
he was in the house. blow it
I don't
up.
know.
Why doesn't she have cameras?
Yeah, cameras.
That was the big thing.
But-
I was like, why not? Why didn't she have the
Prove.
place rigged with drop cams? My house
Blah,
is
blah.
rigged with drop cams. The only I never got attacked by a killer on Haddonfield. My entire house has. I can look up on my phone right now every room of my house.
That's crazy and awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. No,
A little bit.
but yeah, but why doesn't she have cameras?
We're doing something that we don't normally do right now, but I feel like if the movie was written better, we wouldn't
Well,
be doing it.
Yeah, we don't usually try
We
to
don't
rewrite
usually
the movie.
rewrite a movie, but I really feel like I
think when
walked
you-
out of this movie asking all those
When
questions.
you hit all the coincidences, it starts your mind thinking that, like in
Yeah.
the beginning. And even though the doctor cleared up some of them, my mind was already in that mode. Like
Yeah.
I was starting to pick at it. And
Yeah.
it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
You know?
She just, I
Comes an
mean,
issue.
I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, well, when
I'm
I got-
laughing because your expression is so
Because
like,
I was just like, because the whole movie, the marketing, the build up to Laurie Strode, 40 years, she's ready for the verse,
the
final
title bout.
the title
movie.
bout. And I was like,
That's not what this is.
I was like, the confusing plan that she had with this house. I was like, I guess that would work. If it was me, I'd probably have purchased Century guns that would shoot him once in the neck or head and kill him.
Right.
Why did it, like, give me a reason, like, you know what I mean? Like, Michael would need to be smarter or something. I don't know. Give me
You got me.
Yeah, I don't have the answer.
give me a reason why he he had to outthink her and she had to outthink him, but I didn't feel like either one was doing that.
And you know,
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
the way
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
the way they made that trap work, I was actually, while I was watching the movie, I was pretty sure there was going to be some cathartic moment where one of them, like Laurie, would be down in the basement with him, and she'd be going to her daughter,
And push her daughter out and then
yeah,
just
she'd be
turn
like,
him.
no, I can't do it.
And she'd
She'd
be
be
Maybe
like,
they shot
"Hit-
that.
hit
I
the
wouldn't be
button,"
surprised if they
you know?
shot it.
I expected that, or even her daughter to be down there, and then it would be like a tragedy. Where
Jamie,
her daughter, she had to lose her daughter.
Oh
To kill.
No,
shit!
That's kind of what I expected.
That's
No,
dark
what
as
I
shit.
expected when we
Yeah.
got to that, I was like, Laurie is going to go down there and sacrifice herself.
Right.
Because to her,
I agree.
her life doesn't matter. Michael Myers is her life. She is a victim of the highest order,
Yeah.
and also she is a badass of the highest order.
Yeah.
So she is going to take him out with herself to make sure he's dead. That would have been an ending I would have been much more enthusiastic about. Because if I knew
Yeah.
about that basement, I'd be like, that's what you would build. If you're like, I'm going to get him down there,
And I'm
Yeah.
we're
lock
gonna be
him
trapped
in,
together.
and we're
Yeah,
going
we're
to
gonna
burn
burn
alive
alive
together,
together.
and I'm
Yeah.
going to watch as he dies, as
Yeah.
I die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
And
would
it's
make sense.
over.
Yeah,
That's
and
not
I
what
wouldn't be
happened.
surprised if they shot that ending
They might have shot that
and
ending.
tested it.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
then
a
people
pretty
were like,
awesome
You
ending.
can't
if
kill
ask me.
Jamie
Yeah.
Lee. We have a
Yeah.
sequel in mind.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that
they
would have been a badass ending.
The
Like,
answer
would've.
is money. Why
Yeah.
didn't that happen?
I know.
Money.
that's why movies happen. Money. I mean, that's yeah. I know this is a weird episode because we were.
It's a weird episode.
We never do
not,
this, so
yeah, but I want to talk about
I didn't dislike this movie. I
you know,
liked it,
and I liked the movie too.
Yeah, I liked it.
I walked out pumped as shit. They fucking got him in the basement. But I was like, okay, but now I have to talk about the script.
Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
Okay, but
Okay. go
let's.
ahead.
I have a positive.
Okay.
Yes. Let's talk positives.
I have a positive for Danny McBride and I don't know how to say his
David
three names.
Gordon Green?
David Gordon Green. So there's a great teaching moment in this movie that has nothing to do with horror whatsoever. I read lots and lots of scripts that are either like police procedurals, journalists who need to ask people questions, or just people who are trying to solve a mystery. And the scenes usually go like this. A character finds somebody who has some information that they need from him. And that person is going to be asked something they never, ever want to talk about again in their entire lives. Don't ask me anything about this fucking event. And then the character in the movie asks them about the event, and they say, yeah, I'll tell you everything you want to know. And then the character gets all the information they need to move forward in the story.
Right.
With no complication. It's as easy as possible, and there's no motivation provided for why that character would tell them everything they need to know. It's just because the writer needs it to happen. And I was really scared when they got to this moment where they come up to her gate, and I was like, there's no fucking way that Laurie Strode would talk to them, right? But what do? They've got $3,000 in cash, and they're like, well, will you talk to us for $3,000 in cash? And who wouldn't even to just throw them out for after
I mean, she's
1
just
minute.
telling things that are on record, so
But it was just
she
a
do
great
it for money. Yeah,
exactly. But it was
Yeah.
just a great teaching moment because I see so many stories, I see so many scripts where characters need information from another character and there is no motivation for that other character to give them that information. They just do it. And so this movie provided great motivation for Laurie to talk to these podcasters. I thought it was a great teaching moment.
money.
Yeah, money. Just a reward, motivation. Motivation is either reward or stakes. So the alternative would be like, we have your granddaughter at gunpoint, open the gate and talk to us, or else we're going to blow our brains out. That would be also a motivation, but that would be stakes instead of reward.
Right.
So, yeah. Positive.
Yeah, that's a positive.
Good job, guys.
Yeah,
There
I
you
mean,
go. Nice.
for all that we tried to rewrite, I really enjoyed the spirit of this movie.
Absolutely.
It's the nuts and bolts,
The little things.
the little things I just don't get. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
I agree.
it
and
was
I think Jamie pointing out the
lazy.
nihilism doesn't help.
Yeah. I don't think it thinks it's nihilistic though.
No, I don't think it does either.
I don't think it
But
does.
I agree.
I think
that
it
is.
really believes the ending is a triumph
Mhm.
of her
Now,
Laurie Strode's
The,
life.
the moral premise
Yeah.
guy, he claims that no nihilistic movie will ever make money. Like, and he
He's
I
wrong.
I would challenge him with this movie. I'd point him right to this movie and say, "Tell me that this isn't nihilistic."
The most recent King Kong, that's nihilistic as shit,
Yeah, that is.
and that made.
Did the Mist make money?
The what?
Mist. The Mist.
But not
Oh.
not block. He's talking blockbuster kind of
Yeah.
movie, and
The Mist was a blockbuster.
ish. I'll have to look it up.
I
But
mean, that was a big budget horror movie.
yeah, but I mean like in the 100 million. Kind
Okay,
of,
fine.
You know,
This
What was
is
it,
such a.
75?
I love this episode. We are all over the place. It's
Because I
great.
think, you know what? Because I think this movie's all over the place.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of unclear exactly what this movie wants.
yeah. Tried to be too many things.
They try to be too many things,
Yeah.
and you know what? I don't blame them because it's a
Yeah,
lot. It's
they
a
have
lot.
a
Of
lot
money.
of-
There's a reason
yeah.
Adam Wingard was like,
No.
no, boy, no, thank you. I'd rather
Yeah.
direct
Yeah.
King Kong vs. Godzilla is less stress than trying to write
Yeah.
a sequel
Yeah.
to Halloween.
I don't need my slasher movies to do that much, and this did enough for me. I just if it is my duty to talk about the screenwriting aspects of it, I'm gonna be honest, which I was.
Yeah, I mean, like in the end, it doesn't necessitate being great to be good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
it's a really enjoyable
yeah.
thing that happens.
Jamie Lee Curtis is so good in it.
She's great
That's
in
not
it.
The
The
script.
performances are great. There's gonna be a sequel, and I remember in that interview I was talking about earlier that they said that they had ideas, but they didn't want to touch or think about them until this. Let's see if we did. They said, let's see if we screwed up this one first. And then, so
I was saying the entire movie was gonna be, since we didn't see the body,
Mhm.
the entire next movie is just that jump when you think the killer's dead. He's not.
yeah,
It sucks. I wanted to see his body.
Well, or it could be. Of course, everybody's saying it's going to be the baby that he didn't kill. That's going to be the baby.
entire
it's gonna be Michael Myers.
entire
Yeah.
blog
It'll be-
post
it'll be
about the baby.
20 years later, the baby is.
We live in
takes
a
off the
world
mask.
where there
That's
are
awful.
YouTube videos and blog
That is
posts
so terrible.
about
You
Michael
haven't heard that
Myers
one?
walking past a baby.
That's everybody's.
No,
theory.
because to be honest with you, I didn't care to look up any of this stuff.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I read about movies, I've seen
Yeah.
everything, but this one I didn't care enough.
No.
I'm not as big of a fan, so
Yeah, no.
of this movie, of the original. So
Yeah, gotcha.
I
The
didn't.
baby.
The baby. It's an interesting
baby.
theory. What
It,
he
it would
transferred
make
his
sense if
he
it was a
tra-
kid.
he
not
transferred
a
his
baby.
evil
Yeah,
onto
the
him?
baby.
Because
Yeah,
that happened in Jason movies and stuff. You know,
Gotcha.
Corey Feldman,
Yeah.
he became Jason, right?
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about concerning 2018?
No,
You guys-
I think we did good. I mean, we hit on a lot.
exercise my demons.
Yeah. Said all the thing. I'll never talk about the coincidences again.
What did you learn?
Oh. I learned that a nihilistic movie can make money.
Yeah, yeah. Truth is, nihilistic movies don't even bother me too much. Like, I'm not somebody that always needs to have a happy message. Again, a difference between nihilistic ending and a happy ending. are two different things.
Also, a sad ending isn't nihilistic.
Yeah,
necessarily.
you could have a
You
sad
could have
ending that
that's not
has a
nihilistic.
positive message. Like even
Right.
in this case, like let's say Laurie killed herself and the sacrifice was for the greater good. Maybe it would have worked, even though it would have been a sad ending.
Empire Strikes Back is a downer ending, but there's hope.
Hope.
There's meaning and themes in there. It's not
Mhm.
nihilistic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We learn anything else?
I think my big takeaway from this one is even if you explain your coincidences later, sometimes they can get the watcher into nitpick mode, which
Yeah.
is what happened to me in this movie.
Me too.
Same.
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, and even though I retroactively explained a lot of them away with the doctor did it and stuff like that, it did. I was just already, the flip was switched in my
Yeah.
head. And
You detached from it.
yeah. And as soon as you're thinking about kind of the craft of the movie and the logic of the movie, and you're not just feeling the movie, that can be detrimental.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
one thing.
I'll say my lesson. I'm just going to quote RoboCop and say guns, guns, guns. Because I think my biggest takeaway, which goes with what Jamie was saying, is I just don't buy Laurie Strode's plans.
Gotcha.
Like for what the plan ended up being,
Yeah.
getting him caught in there and doing all that, I just none of it made sense to me. Like she's not an idiot, so I don't understand why everything was so convolutedly complex in that house and stuff. It's like just get him in a space and trap him, and then don't make it someplace you have to go down and back up. Like you know what I mean? Like get him to walk through the house and then just have it close down. Right? Am I nuts?
I think Scrappy Doo would have thought of a better trap than what came up.
I think Kevin McAllister would have thought of a better trap.
Well,
No doubt.
It's just. I wish there was an explanation. Maybe like I might have rewrite the movie. I might have preferred Laurie Strode living her normal life. I think that was H2O,
Yeah.
and then it just happens again, and she has
Right.
to like prepare
Yeah.
that.
She kind of was in witness protection almost to that.
Yeah.
I mean, not in her own
Yeah,
self
yeah.
version.
I haven't seen H2O in a while.
Yeah. It's been
But-
a while.
Right.
She was a teacher at a
Yeah.
private school or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
I wanted better preparation than the script thought it gave me a reason for.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
How's that? Is that
Well
yeah.
said.
That's it.
Well said. Give me
That's it.
reasons, I guess. All right, guys. I think that was enough meandering about the script of freaking 2018. Gosh. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You have just listened to Writer's Blockbusters, a screenwriting podcast featuring two professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.